Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to What is for Retail Inking, also known as Sally Jesse Raphael, also known as Untitled. So today I'm going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be inking directly on pencils, which for me is kind of wild. And let me get some music going. John's Longbox. Hey, how's it going? I was gone for about a week. Actually, no, it was exactly a week. I was in Athens, Georgia. So, it was curious. I'm trying to get back into things. I packed up all my drawing stuff, but I literally didn't get a chance to unpack. So this is kind of getting back into it. A little rusty after a week. I've been gone for a while. I don't know what this is exactly, but I got Horus and you got these like guys coming out of the ground, maybe buggish. And this kind of bat-ish looking monster thing. Yeah, I just like to do these. I'm not going to call them random. They're just concept art, kind of crafting new characters, crafting like settings and scenes. Could potentially lead to a story. I don't know. But I'm going to start from pencils, which just, again, I never ever do this. This is something that I've always had a problem with because the paper that you pencil with and the paper that you ink with are two very different things. But we'll see how this goes. Hey Creative Faye, how's it going? Looking forward to maybe doing a draw stream. That'll be fun. Gollum Wolf, hey, what's up? Thanks for subscribing and ordering the books. And looking forward to chatting on that stream. Yeah, it's funny because I went to Athens for a week. And you pack everything up. You're like, all right, I got everything I need. I'm good. You know, work is postponed for the time being. And I think it was Wednesday night or something, I got an order for my Dagon sculpture, which is a big deal. It's a big model. It's pretty expensive, so I don't sell a lot of them. So I was pretty excited. I'm like, oh wow, I just sold the Dagon sculpture. This is great, you know. I gotta get rid of those things. And then I realized I'm out of town for a week, so I won't be able to ship this thing for like 4 or 5 days. So got back last night pretty late, packaged it up and sent it off, along with a set of Horace H. Hoover books for Gollum Wolf. So, yeah, thanks again for buying those. But I have to admit, I can't remember the last time I didn't draw for a week. I mean, I draw every day without fail. And sometimes the amount might vary, you know. But yeah, I draw every day, without a doubt. Maybe like, you know, if I'm traveling or something, I go a day without it, but the next day I'm sketching or doing something. So having a whole week without drawing is kind of wild. So I figured this would get me back into it so I can finish up the last 8 pages of Horsey Tuber number 4 of inks. Because the last thing I want to do is jump back into the Horsey Tuber stuff immediately before kind of limbering up a bit. And there are times where I don't know, I really wish I would ink directly on the pages, but we'll see how this goes. Vacation or work trip? It was actually my niece's wedding. So we went down, got like an Airbnb with my brother, and so I got to see all my brothers and their families. Spent the week there, and then the wedding was on Friday, and we kind of did some stuff for that. So it was great. It was pretty nonstop. It was also hot as hell, which just makes you want to do nothing. I don't know how people in really hot environments ever get like the energy to do anything. It was pretty cool. I did some watercolors. I think I mentioned this before for my niece for the wedding. So that was a lot of fun. She had a bunch of locations, sort of like meaningful locations, and she wanted to use those at the reception. So I busted out the watercolors, which really got me into potentially doing watercolors for your book, John. I just had so much fun doing it. It's been so long. But I'm like, maybe I should do more of this. I'm also looking forward to streaming with my comic bros. Love the art. Thank you. I know I feel weird if I don't draw for a while. Yeah. Yep, I finished the paintings. There were 18 of them. So it was a chunk of work. And the thing is, they're really like loose, kind of simple paintings, but you need to like get into a groove in order to do them, because I know a lot of times simple paintings look like, it just took 5 minutes and that's it. I'm like, yeah, but to get to that point where you're just kind of cranking them out takes time. So I definitely had some false starts. Like, well, maybe I'll do realistic. That didn't. I just thought like a realistic watercolor would look kind of weird. So I had to test out some things, find a style that I liked, and then once I got that, I could go through them fairly quickly. Boanoit, Fabrizio. Boanoit. I don't know what that means. But hello, good evening. Thanks for joining, Liriano Santiago. Are your brothers artistic too? Not. They're more musical. My one brother plays drums. He's the one that lived in New York for like 17 years. Went to go see him play a few times, maybe just once. At, where was that? Man, that was a long time ago. Something ballroom, I can't remember. Then my other brother plays the drums too. They both cook, so they're all, creating sort of like dessert masterpieces and stuff like that. My other brother doesn't play any instruments. Yeah, they're all very different creatively, we'll say. Yeah, me and my one brother used to play because I play guitar, he played drums, so we had this tiny little amp, like, man, it must have been, I don't know, 12 amps. It was a tiny amp, and the minute we would play, he'd be playing drums, I'd plug in the amp, and my neighbors would call the cops. We couldn't play for 5 minutes. This was kind of interesting. I've noticed this with several of my nephews on sort of both sides of the family. There seems to be a bit of a resurgence of instruments. People, kids playing actual guitars and piano and all that, which is really cool. It's great to see. I mean, it seems like there was a kind of skipped a generation almost, and I keep hearing about, I'm picking up the guitar, I'm playing piano, I'm doing this, which is really cool. That's really great to hear that. Because I know growing up, if I wasn't playing guitar or drawing or something, I don't know what I'd be doing. Gollum Wolf, I get it. When Bob Ross was asked how long a painting took, he always replied 30 years plus 30 minutes. That's a great response. Way to go, Bob. Call me next time when you're in New York. Yeah, I will. We're tentatively planning a trip sometime. But it's been a while since I've been to New York proper. Probably right before COVID, maybe. That is mean of the neighbor. Yeah, I mean, like, I get it. If we're playing for like 3 hours or something, or even an hour, but as soon as we like plugged in and he started playing drums, she'd call the cops. I'm like, come on. Like, I get it, but so these cross contour lines that I use, people always actually call them contour lines. They're not. They're cross contour lines. I call them Barry Windsor Smith lines because he does cross contour, and it's probably the most distinctive thing about his artwork is all the cross contour stuff that he does. And it's honestly it's not a cheat by any stretch of the imagination, but you have some artists that can describe a form with just the contour lines, and those are like the greats, right? With a few lines, you can tell like the shape and everything. But we're not all John Buscema, so using those cross contour lines kind of do two things. One, it gives form to those muscles or whatever you're drawing. It gives form, and it also gives that elusive, like, quote-unquote detail that people are looking for, because they want to see, they want to see lines. They want to see, oh wow, look at all the detail, look at all of the hatching, the cross-hatching. So I think it's a great way to describe form, and honestly, I should do it more often. You don't want to do it too much because it can add a lot of gray, but if you're really trying to make sure that people understand that this ear, like right here, is like a half circle, then just do cross contour lines over it. It doesn't have to be everywhere either. Liriano Santiago, amo arte con pincel suo do Brazil. So I don't speak that language, but I'm assuming I know Italian, and I'm gonna guess it says I love art with a pencil. Suo do, and they're from Brazil. Feel free to call me for your translation needs. Half guessing, Half educated guess. Half uneducated guess. Yes, we'll see how this experiment turns out. Now, the one thing I'm hoping is, since I'm going directly on the pencils, and you'll notice that the pencils are not tight. They're pretty loose. I'm hoping it adds a little bit of energy to the drawing. We'll see. Been there. My first guitar amp was a 15-watt solid-state crate amp. It was impossible to hear over a drum kit. That is so true. I can't remember the name. I can't remember the amp, actually. It might have been a crate. But man, I'm old, so it was so long ago, I don't remember. It wasn't like a nice one. I have a Vox right now, which I absolutely love. Vox just has like this great crunch. Needs Kirby Crackle. Portuguese. Interesting. I was on South. Where did you go to my favorite restaurant, Waffle House? I didn't. Yeah, my brother is a great cook, so it's like I'm trying to think. We did eat out once, but for the most part, we cooked, we kind of snacked on things. We did some stuff for the wedding too, so we were kind of running around. We weren't catering it, but we did some stuff. There was like a cookie table with cannoli and tons of traditional cookies for weddings. Although I'm told that the cookie table concept is a regional thing. So I don't even know if you guys do that in New York or not. But it's definitely a Pittsburgh thing. It's a Italian American kind of thing. Yeah, we didn't go to Waffle House though. It was good. Athens was a nice little town, a little college town. So it had like a strip with some shops and whatnot. It was cool. There's a couple cool buildings. That's basically all I look for nowadays. I brought a stack of comics for my nephews and niece. So I've been trying to catalog my comics slowly but surely. I noticed I had a bunch of duplicates. I don't know. That I had just bought. I don't know how that happened, but it happens. I don't know, 30? Something like that. I'm like, I don't need these duplicates, so I just gave them to my nieces, or my niece and nephews. There's a lot of X-Men actually. A lot of X-Men. Generation X. What else is in there? Sabretooth. There was like a Sabretooth miniseries. I don't know if you remember that. That was Mark Texiera. Great artwork. I flipped through it again. I'm like, man, this stuff still really holds up. Some other stuff I can't think of. Oh, some Silver Surfer I think was in there. I still haven't seen any of the movies that people are talking about, unfortunately, because Well, just because I was prepping for the trip and the wedding and painting, so hopefully I'll catch up on all those movies that came out. You know, I have to admit, this paper isn't... it's not as bad as I recall. Now, it could be that I didn't erase a lot on this particular drawing. So, like, the integrity of the top of the paper is still there. But what happens is if you erase too much, it kind of tears up the top of the paper. And then when you try to ink it, it just bleeds everywhere. I still, again, I'm not entirely sure what this thing is. Bat creature thing. It's not that important. If at the end of this I get ideas for something else, then it's worthwhile. Trying to think of what happened on the way. Any good stories? The drive is pretty long. It was impossible to cut any time off of that trip. It was 10.5 hours, and then stopping, probably ended up being 11.5 or something like that. It's a long time to drive. And I usually drive, well, no, not usually, I'm always the one that I drive straight through. So, by the time you get there, it's pretty exhausting. There was like a couple of hours where we had a little bit of downtime. So me and my brother went down into the basement. There's like a game room, really cool Airbnb, but there's a game room with a TV. I'm like, let's go watch some TV. And we put on the Inhumans, the Marvel series, which, if you want to take a nap and you need something to lull you to sleep, the Inhumans is definitely the way to go. It's the TV show equivalent of like sleeping with a box fan. It'll just lull you to sleep, for sure. So I was thinking these like creatures, people, kind of half bug, popping out of the ground. I was gonna call them the 10-year men. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. Again, I don't know if this is going to be in a story or not. We'll see. So on my YouTube channel, I'm actually at 991, which was kind of cool. So I'm actually in somewhat like reach of 1,000. I haven't really prioritized, trying to get subscriptions. If it happens, it happens. Just because I didn't want to harangue people about subscribing or this or that. But now, pretty close to 1,000 would be, it's reasonable that I'll get there. So, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, check it out. I will be doing different stuff. I know I've been just doing live stream inking, but I want to do, I have a couple things planned. One is more book reviews. It looks like I did a book review of, I did a couple, I think. I think I did Bernie Hogarth's anatomy book and another one. Did I do right, or Bridgman? I can't remember. But anyway, those actually did really well, and I was kind of shocked. It took a long time for them to sort of make their way through the internet algorithm, but yeah, those did pretty good. And I actually like doing them, so I'll probably do more art book reviews. I think his hand's a little too big, which can't do much about that now. That's gotta be stressful, inking on the original art. Yeah. I don't know if I could do it for an actual page. We'll see how this goes, though. I might do it more for marketing, kind of one-off things. We'll see how it goes, though. I feel like I should practice it more. Then you get a really clean piece of artwork in the end. You erase out the pencils, and you have just the inks, as opposed to my inks have blue line, which doesn't bother me, but it might bug somebody else. A lot of people use a lot of people used to use blue line. Everybody does digital now, so. And the other thing too is, you have a list of things you need to work on. And for me, I really want to try to pencil a little looser so then I can get to inks quicker. It's all about trying to speed up the process reasonably without losing quality, and this could be one of those ways that works well. Yeah, I literally didn't read one page. Well, I shouldn't say I didn't read one page. I read like half a comic over the last week. Like before I went to bed, I'm like, I need to get a little reading in before I go to bed. Then when I got back, I went to Ides, which I've talked about before. It's it's the most famous comic book shop in Pittsburgh. Also has music and DVDs and things like that. Independently owned, cool place. Picked up a few random back issues. I think I got the Demon and some Blue Beetle stuff. Just sort of kind of random. The funny thing is, the reason I did it is because I was downtown. I used to work downtown for like 9 years. It was never bad. I mean, it was, random crazy person, but you just kind of avoid them and you're fine. Past couple times I went downtown and it was very dangerous. Had multiple incidents happen to me, which were pretty crazy. And as I was heading back to the parking garage, there was this person out front of the parking garage doors that I could tell. I'm like, you know what? If I walk by this guy, he could just kind of sucker punch me. You get a feel for people after a while. So I'm like, you know what? I'll duck into Ides. I'll look at their comics for a bit until I find something. Give this guy a chance to move on. And he did. But I'm glad I stopped into Ides. It's been a long time. They were actually really nice, which I know it sounds like I'm being a jerk, but they're known to be not pleasant. I've been going there for 25 years, and yeah, just unpleasant. Wow. Liriano Santiago. Let's see if I can parse this with my zero knowledge of Portuguese. You know what? I can actually understand a few of those words, but I can't. Desenhos means to design or to draw. Yeah, sorry, I can't actually translate that right now. Okay, so like what pincias para arte final voce usa? Like something do I use to draw? I think you're talking about the brush. I'm just gonna make that guess. It's a Series 7, number 2. So hopefully that helps. I think that's what you're asking. I'm surprised StreamYard doesn't have like an auto translate. Human being, hello. That's a pretty great screen name. I shouldn't have done that line right there. Just to make sure that people know that I am indeed human. Yeah, it is a classic brush. Well, I mean, it is good that you announce that you're a human being, because there's a lot of people that think aliens are all over the place now. I'm not one of those people, but there are many people. I'm in the minority at this point as far as believing in aliens and whatnot. Going very, very dark for these characters. Oh, got some spam that got through. The reason I did this drawing in particular is some of my favorite covers are pretty wild in terms of like number of characters. You got the very classic Wolverine or something like that with all these, ninja. I realized I hadn't done a comic book cover where there's just a bunch of bad guys, and Horus in the middle of it. So I wanted to do my take on that and see how much I could cram in the middle of a page. Hey Ernest, how's it going? Thank you very much. This one is turning out, it's actually not bad. Like I said, I went directly from pencils, no blue line, and the pencils are rough. So, which is something else different. I don't know. I'm big into experimentation. That has always been either a strength or a weakness, depending on the situation. Sometimes experimenting too late, or when you don't have time, or you don't have the right tools, essentially can ruin a piece. But if you never experiment, whether it's stories or art, no matter what, I don't know. I get bored really quickly. And I'd rather take the risk sometimes. especially with monsters. You can pretty loose with monsters. You don't, if you're doing a pretty girl's face, you can't play around too much, because just a little like stray line, for the lip could totally ruin the look. So you can't really, if you're a master, sure. That's the caveat. But if you're a normal human being, like the person in the chat, human being, then monsters are a good place to kind of cut loose. And you can play with proportions, you can play with skin texture, you can play with pretty much anything. So if there's a place to do it, so now that I am back from vacation, done with a pretty big project that I was working on, I can kind of get the next stuff in queue. So Horus H. Hoover number 4, once I get those inks done, I'm going to be doing some watercolor paintings, maybe a watercolor comic. We'll see if I do watercolor for the comic or not. I gotta do some tests for that first. What I'm picturing in my head might not actually come out onto the page, which is kind of the eternal struggle. I'm gonna I have a fake ad planned for Horus H. Hoover number 4, which I'm really excited about. It's kind of a fake ad. It's a fake ad that actually led to something kind of real. I'm gonna be super vague about it, but I'm excited about it, because I have a ton of ideas for fake ads over the years that I've wanted to do. So as soon as I'm done with an issue, I kind of mine through those ideas and see if any of them still resonate with where I'm at now, as opposed to 4 years ago or something. So I came up with a brand new one that I hadn't thought of before, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, so it's a fake ad, but it's also kind of led to something a little real. So. Oh, I want to do another fake ad with you. Sure. I love doing them. It's like, I don't know. It's just so much fun. I wonder, like, flipping through an old Marvel book, Bronze Age, looking at the ads, and here we are, 40 years later, 45, whatever, and we're doing fake ads to put in comic books. And I wonder what the artists back then would think about that. They would be like, what? I bet they would have a hard time like wrapping their heads around it. They're like, we hated all ads. Why would you put a fake ad in there? But it's part of the story. And I think it's because, you read these stories like 40 times, sometimes 100 times, or even more as a kid. So the ad, like when you flip that page, you're expecting this ad. When you and you get to the end of the book and you flip it around, you're expecting like a D&D ad or whatever the case may be. So it becomes part of the story, whether you like it or not. So putting them in your books is, I think, really, it's just an additional way to kind of add to the atmosphere, to the time period that you're capturing. The first fake ad I did was the Monster Beach Vacation, and the reason I did that was because that was a video game that I was making, that I had started to make a long, long, long time ago, before there was a cartoon called Monster Beach Vacation, probably 10 years before that cartoon. And I'm like, you know what, I'm never going to get a chance to actually make the game, so it would be fun if that was the fake game that I put in there. So that was the reasoning for it in the beginning, and then and now it's just something I really look forward to. Now that I've done 2 for John, one for Heroic Tales, and one for Heroic Tales 1 and 2, which are really fun. Because I don't actually think you want real ads in your book. My quote-unquote former publisher put ads in there, and some of the ads I liked because I liked, the people and their product, but some were, I don't know, not great. So it does detract a bit. So unless you absolutely need to have ads, like real ads, and you can curate those ads, I don't know. I say don't put them in. Put in fake ads, put in ads for comic books or people that you know for that reason, but just like leaving it open to anyone to put an ad in your book, I don't know. Some of them went really well with the book. So for me, I did. I liked Midnight Museum or Mausoleum, sorry, which I thought that was great because it goes with the atmosphere. So that really added to the book. But I would say arguably some of the ads just, they didn't fit, and it was just kind of like, okay, that's, you turn the page and you're like, that's a little weird, and you just keep moving. I did 2 ads, and I love them both. They were so much fun to do. The one with Wolf and Batsy was a tiny bit stressful at the beginning because, working with other characters that can be dicey. But once I got it done and Brian liked it and you liked it, then it was just fun. Alright, so we're kind of moving along. Got some big parts of this done. The one thing that I think is not certain. The one thing to keep in mind is, if you're looking at a comic book with a bunch of stuff going on in the cover, people are really just looking at the main character or characters and then glancing at the other ones initially. But later on, you might pour over that other stuff. Like, I know for the Wolverine cover, I've absolutely poured over those character drawings because of the anatomy. It's like plotting that out. It's very hard, and I would stare at it and be like, man, everything works out. Because people laying on top of each other is pretty hard because you have to draw through the drawing on top to make sure that, oh, okay, well, if this ninja is on top of that ninja and his leg is here, is it popping out underneath over here? You know, would you be able to see his hand because it was stuck? It's very difficult, I would say. Some people could do it just naturally, very quickly. Nobody that is alive in 2025, though. I hate to break it to the comic world. I'm not saying they can't do it at all, but they can't do it the way the greats did. I'm also working on this thing. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it is it's, man, how to describe it without giving it away. It's kind of a game. I'm going to call it a book game. That's kind of all I'll say about it. I've been prototyping some stuff. I'm currently working on a short story as, sort of the prototype to test. It's interesting though. It's actually brand new. Like nothing like this exists. It's not a choose your own adventure. It's not a role-playing game. It's not a video game. It's a book game. But yeah, hopefully I can announce it. I might do a Kickstarter for it. This will probably be next year, but it's been a lot of fun to work on. Well, we're at 53 minutes. Yeah, an hour's, and my laptop's about to die. Hold on 1 second. Alrighty. What was I saying? Something. Anyway, yeah, working on several projects. But I think realistically, I'm going to shoot for one comic a year, whether that's Horace H. Hoover or another property or working with somebody else. That gives me time to do other stuff that I want to do. So sculpting or resin models or short stories. But I definitely don't want to I want to make sure that I'm still releasing comic books in some form. So one a year, always self-contained moving forward. now that I'm back, I definitely want to do another episode of that post-tenchus. So I'll have to plan on that. I'm just getting like organized again. So I'll reach out, but I really want to do another episode. I think what it is like, you know, we have to hold in our pretentiousness for so long, and then it builds, and you have to get out your pretentiousness. You just have to, whether it's going to the grocery store and striking up a conversation with somebody while they're getting fruit, and then using words like lugubrious and expostulate. Something. It's not our fault. Alright, I think I'm good today, though. This guy's just coming out of the mud. Alrighty. What? Lugubrious. Or truculent. Or all sorts of... My friend's favorite word is pulchritudinous, which is a great word. If you ever want to give somebody a compliment, or actually, if you want to give somebody a compliment but have them think it's an insult, then say they have, I don't know, sublime pulchritudinous. It's a good word. Alright, we'll just kind of take a look where we're at, which got pretty far, actually. Got Horace kind of roughed out for the most part. Got like the main 10-year man. Got some other guys popping up through the mud. Yeah, it's actually turned out pretty cool. Again, we'll see if anything comes from it, but... Human being. English is not my first language. Help. Sorry. I can't help it. I enjoy big words very much, like Horace H. Hoover. But, yeah, thanks everybody for popping in. I appreciate it. I will post things on Twitter and Instagram and all that jazz. But if you haven't subscribed, feel free. I'm trying to get to 1,000. At which point in time, I will bake myself a cake and eat it by myself. That's what one does when one hits 1,000, right, John? Isn't that what you did? Horace is you, but not you. No, that's true. I mean, as writers, you put a little bit of yourself in all your characters. I think you can't avoid that. I mean, Horace isn't me, but like the language thing, you know, I love it. So, yeah, thanks again, everybody. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you later. Bye.